everyone. It is time for another episode of the Earth Station One podcast. That's right, folks. And it's good to see each and every one of you tonight. And we got a great one for you. We're going to believe tonight. We're looking at the world of Ted Lasso. That's right. All 3 seasons, all in an hour. God, that's going to be almost impossible to do. I don't know how we're going to do this one, but it's going to be a great thing to talk about. One of my favorite shows of the last couple of years. And we got a great crew to talk all about it. Let's welcome back Dena Woods. Welcome.
Hello. Hi, guys.
It's good to see you.
Good to see you guys.
And of course, Elaine Sweatman is here too.
Hi, how are you?
It feels like I just saw you, 2 days ago or something?
Yeah, just recently, yes.
Exactly. So it is awesome to that. And of course, Mr. Mike Gordon is here.
Howdy.
You ready to be the American going over to England?
I'm sorry, I
learn
didn't
how to play football.
I'm sorry, I didn't bring homemade biscuits. Was that a thing I'm supposed to do?
Yes, you are. Because I'm almost ready to sell the podcast. So figure out what we're going to do. You have to convince me not to, with charm and goodness and everything. So
I think I'll just fly back home.
Okay, bye.
There will be spoilers. We should say that.
Oh, we will. If you have not watched all of Ted Lasso, including the last season, we are going to be spoiling a lot. And it's going to be very interesting to talk all about this one. And we definitely would love to hear from you guys. Feedback at our Station One is the way to do it. And we have an affinity for this show. And there's a huge fan base that about 2 weeks ago all went, no, it's over. Oh no. And but is it over? That's the question. And we'll be trying to talk a little bit about that too. So we have a lot to cover in this one. So Mr. Mike, ready to take a trip to Richmond?
We are ready to call a meeting of the Earth Station One Diamond Dogs. All right. Let's get right into it.
I'm not doing that kind of crap.
Dean, let's start with you. How did you discover Ted Lasso?
So everybody I know was watching it, and my best friend was like, "You got to watch it. You'll love it." I watched the first episode. I was immediately annoyed, and I was just like, "Why is he telling me to watch this? He knows I'm not a sports girl." And so then I decided, like 6 months later, to finally just jump in there with both feet and try it out. And I'm hooked. I got hooked, and then it was ending.
So you started late, like I did with season 3.
So the first episode I watched like I said 6 months ago, and then I just started like right before when the season was like in the middle, I guess.
Yeah.
I started watching it, and then I finally caught up, and I actually finished in time to watch the finale or not live, but when it
debuted. Yeah. Elaine, what about you? How did you discover Ted Lasso?
I think we watched the first season when it first came out. I'm trying to remember. I know the second season we watched as it came out, and the third season we watched it as it came out. So I don't know if it's like all of a sudden we need to binge watch the first season for the second one starts. But we also were watching Welcome to Wrexham, which I think was on Hulu, about Ryan Reynolds and
right
Rob McElhenney buying the Welsh football club.
Yeah,
and
so that's a documentary. That's a real
thing that happened.
But it kind of dovetailed into Ted Lasso in a weird sort of way, and so we just kind of were like watching all the things about soccer for a while. We don't normally watch soccer.
I was going to say, do either one of you watch football, soccer, however you want to refer to it here?
I've only watched it when the World Cup was happening, and then I'll get into it with my friends, but otherwise,
no. No, I've been to a couple Atlanta United games, but
and they are hot.
Yeah,
they fill a stadium. That's an amazing thing right there. Mike, what about you?
Football fans are very, very dedicated to the sport.
Yes. Yeah. They, and as seen here with AFC Richmond, I mean, it is a lot of it is, used for comedic effect, but I mean, there's almost truth to almost everything that they're doing here.
Mm-hmm. No, it's interesting too, because I had heard about the show when it first started, but I didn't have Apple Plus at first. And I was a huge Jason Sudeikis fan, mostly from Saturday Night Live and his time there. And I had seen the TV commercials he did for NBC as Ted Lasso. And I thought it was going to be some stupid parody type thing. And I heard the plot, an American coach going to the UK to coach a British football team. And, the owner wants to sell the team. That's why she brought him. Oh, and I said, oh, Major League.
Right.
Again.
Yeah. And like 100 other movies.
Exactly. Oh, talk about formulaic. And I was like, oh, Jason Sudeikis is doing that. And it's like, and then I started hearing really, really good things about it. And I got very, very lucky because my computer at work died on me. And my boss
and you said, yay, right when it happened, right?
I did, because I was getting a brand new Mac. So I was like thrilled. And so I got, 6 months free of Apple Plus, as part of getting the new computer. And I was like, I'm going to try giving Ted Lasso a shot. I didn't know anything else that was on Apple Plus at the time. All I knew was Ted Lasso. And so I started watching. It was still the first season. So we got caught up pretty quickly, because that's the one thing that Apple did with it, is put it out weekly when it was on and everything. And I fell in love with the characters right away. And I kind of related to Ted a little bit, being a divorced dad and, seeing, not being able to be around his son and stuff, being, far away from him. And so it resonated with me. And then you had all these other characters who were human, even Rebecca, who you weren't really supposed to like at first. There was likable instances of her. And, you fell in love with Jamie Tart. You fell in love with, of course, Roy Kent, Coach Beard, all of them. It's just awesome, because Coach Beard was just so frippin' weird, and it felt like, it was like trying to think, is Coach Beard supposed to be like the Silent Bob of this thing, type thing at first. And it was just real interesting. And the characters were quirky, and that's what I love with a TV show. That's what catches my attention. And that's what caught my attention with Ted Lasso. And you actually started believing that he was going to get something across, and that actually he might learn about football, during the whole time. So, and it went in so many directions that I didn't expect the show to go either. So it was pretty awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I'd heard about the show. I mean, it's hard not to. I mean, it's received such critical acclaim, won and been nominated and won tons of awards already. I mean, you see about it, a meme about it almost every day. People are cosplaying it as and because it's an easy cosplay, right? At conventions and all that. So very, very, very hard to and I don't know what I mean. I was curious about it, and the one thing that I really kept hearing from people is that it was a feel-good series, which I really appreciated. But like you, Mike, I thought, oh, this is just going to be formulaic, series, sports series, rags to riches team, whatever, Bad News Bears kind of situation, like just kind of all those sports tropes, right? But what I didn't expect, and my experience with Jason Sudeikis is practically nothing. I've not seen any of his movies. When I was looking at his IMDb or whatever, I was like, "Oh, he was on SNL for like almost a decade." I had no idea. I had no idea. That's how out of tune I am with that kind of stuff. I mean, I probably had seen him before, but he just made no impression on me whatsoever. Which, at least he didn't make a bad one, right? So, But I've been wanting to see this. So thankfully, when we were doing this episode, I said, all right, I'm going to sit down and watch these. And of course, I waited till the last minute. So I binged all 3 seasons in like 5 days. So now I've got I am definitely in the realm of Ted Lasso in my head. It's so crazy how that works when you binge like that. Between that and another show I binged this week with some Sweet Tooth, it's just I have weird dreams now, just really crazy weird dreams.
You just see a kid with deer antlers running through a football field, basically.
Exactly. That's the normal part. Then it gets weird. By
Roy Kent.
Roy effing Kent. But yeah, when I watched it after, the first few episodes, I figured if I didn't like it, then I'd pass on, reviewing it with you guys. But I did fall for it. I thought it was really good. And I'm right. There's a lot of sports stuff that this doesn't reinvent the wheel. This is a really simple story that's told over 3 seasons of a loser team that becomes big, an outsider comes in, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You've seen it a million times. The thing about Ted Lasso is it might be a simple premise that's done a lot, but it's been very rarely done this well. And with these characters, and I think with most television shows that are successful, it all depends on the characters. And if you do not create and develop characters that people care about, that are 3-dimensional, that surprise you, then your show is just going to die on the vine. It's not as easy as it sounds, but that's what you have to do. And Ted Lasso does that really well. I mean, there are so many characters in this. And yeah, I mean, we'll talk about it at length, I'm sure, as much as we can. But there's so many good characters in this that it has been suggested that even though this might be the last season, the show could continue without Ted. And guess what? Yeah. They created the character strong enough that yes, it could. It's kind of like
very much so.
After The Closer, when Major Crimes went on by itself without Kira Sedgwick, everybody's like, "What? How could you do that with just a supporting cast?" And they did it. So I definitely think that this is really high on the ranks of well written, well acted, well produced shows. And I know what all the hype is about, and guess what? It matches the hype. So, Elaine, let's start with you as far as characters goes. I mean, we can start with Ted if you want. Yeah, let's start with Ted. All right.
Okay.
What are your feelings about the main character himself?
He's a conflicted guy, but he got a lot of love in his heart for everybody that he loves, and I feel bad for him sometimes because I know his ex-wife, didn't do him right at all, and but he also has trauma from his childhood that he's trying to deal with and try to be there for his son, but he's also just very positive about everything, which is not easy to do when you have all this stuff going on in your brain and having panic attacks and all of that. But he still keeps going. He still keeps going.
I know. I love the fact that he, I think in one episode, describes himself as Ned Flanders cosplaying as Ned Flanders.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
That's not a better way to put it.
And Dena, what do you think about Ted Lasso himself as the main character of the show?
Initially, he got on my nerves. I was so annoyed by him he was so sweet and so positive to the point where I was just like, oh my God, is anybody on this earth like this? But, I feel like if he didn't keep that positivity and if he didn't keep that attitude constantly, he would have just been in the corner crying because what he went through was really horrible. And I don't know that I personally would have ever been able to just pull anything positive out of what he went through. And so I commend him for that. And so, but he grew on me. I love Ted. He's amazing. But at first he did annoy me a lot.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mike, now you said you had, experience watching Jason and everything and the character. How did you think of, what did you think of his development through the whole series?
Well, the one thing about the series, it's all about growth, and every character is not the same at all from the very first episode on, all the way to the final episode. And it's interesting because you had characters grow, a lot of them in the positive way, a couple in negative, and you got to see all of it. And it was interesting because Ted, you learned a lot about him. There was a reason he took the job in the UK. He was in a failed marriage, and he wanted to see what he could salvage of it. But he had a ton of guilt built into him because of what happened to his father. And then, and you don't find out until like the second season or later in the first season about his father committing suicide. And it's just real interesting that you had that. And his trauma because of, giving up, his son. His son's a whole continent, a continent away. And it was just real interesting. And at first him saying, "Oh, I don't need therapy. I don't need therapy." And then finally, he hit a point and, with these, panic attacks that he was having. And it was just amazing, that, you need to get to all the way down to the lowest point till you finally realize you need help. And that's what happened with him. And it was, and the whole world saw him fall apart, literally on the field. And it was interesting that you had Nate being the one to, betray him on that. And we'll get to that. Don't worry. We got, this is going to be a fun one, folks. And it's interesting too, because you had people, everyone who knew him was there to support him. There was no one other than one or two people to stab him in the back. Everyone else was there to help him through it. And it shows, overall, if you get the right kind of people around you, you can do anything, including winning making a winning team from nothing.
Yeah.
People believe in themselves. Hence,
I really also, I can definitely relate to Ted in some ways, because I do, or at least I have been accused of being too optimistic for my own good. So there's that, or for anybody else's good for that matter. So and he was funny. Like, that's the other thing. I mean, he might have been like, but I thought like his references and his speech patterns and everything, I just thought he was generally funny. And I appreciated that. And, you always hear those things about comedians, are really funny. The really funniest ones even have really deep, dark issues inside. And not only does Ted experience that, but Jason playing Ted and writing Ted, I mean, at the time he had just gone through a divorce with Olivia Wilde, has a child. In filming this, he had to go to England, spend time away from his child. Like, he was experiencing what Ted was experiencing. So just as Ted is like, at the end of the third season, makes a decision, I'm going back home. It's easy to see that Jason is making the decision here. I'm done with this show.
Is he?
I mean, if you listen to the press, he says he's done. Like, he's done being creative with it. He's done, like, he might pop up occasionally, maybe if the show continues in some form, but I think he's pretty much going to move on to other things. I don't think he's interested in continuing this story. Now, if the Apple TV Plus, what is it? Sorry.
Apple Plus.
Apple Plus people like back that money truck up to his house, maybe we'll see him again, but that would have to be, we'll see. But yeah, I think the character is great, and you're right. He goes through some stuff. I think, as the show develops, it becomes less about Ted and more about everybody, which is fine, because if it was just about Ted, it should just be a 2-hour movie. But since it's 3 seasons, you have to sort of, branch that out. So you introduce a lot of casts, a lot of characters, and they have a lot of winners here. So Mike, I'm going to start with you. Who's your number one, your center player as far as other characters in the show?
Oh God.
Who's your center character on the field?
On the field? Jamie Tart.
Well, I mean, I just meant like on the show. So
on the show. Well, you said on the field, dude. So
yeah, I was being like metaphorical.
Oh, okay. Probably I would want to say, other than Ted, probably Rebecca in a lot of ways. Because you saw somebody who had just been divorced from Rupert, and she was trying to get revenge on him because he was cheating on her, and basically she wanted to sell the thing that he loved the most, which was the football team. She wanted to destroy it, and that's why she brought in Ted, because what bigger to bring in somebody who doesn't know football at all. And it was interesting, and her growth as a person, as finding herself, because she basically was a trophy wife also, and she basically was she came from money, but she also but she had even more, and she had power then, and she was respected in the town, in the city. And it was just interesting. And Richmond has a history. It's over 100 years old, and it's just, so she wanted to destroy it, and she fell in love with the team too, and she fell in love with the people that she was working with. Before that, they were just people that worked for the team. She didn't know anybody on it. And basically the relationship she built with Kaylee was just amazing. They became best friends, and it was awesome. And to see her through the 3 seasons grow completely, and to being somebody that Ted could turn to, they became best friends. And into her literally saying, I don't want you to leave, I'll sell this team if you decide to leave, because that's how integral you are to me and to this team. And it was just really, really interesting that she did that. And she learned how to stand up to Rupert. She learned how to control her life, and via fluke through a psychic, she literally found the man of her dreams at the end, which was pretty awesome.
Yeah, I give them a lot of credit. I think the thing that is expected, and the thing that they teased a couple times, but the thing that's always expected in these shows is that Ted and Rebecca are going to get together, right? They're the ones that are going to find each other, and instead you have your 2 lead characters become platonic friends, and it's just as difficult for them to part as if they were in a relationship, or in a love relationship in which they are of some kind, but not in the traditional sense that we usually associate with these shows.
Well, exactly. And they teased you with it with the final episode, and
they teased you with it throughout the whole series.
Oh, throughout the whole series, but really did it when you see Ted show up in, his pajamas.
Oh yeah,
at her home. And then you see Beard in his.
No, I don't want to be reminded of it. Don't do that. Don't go there. We're gonna move on. Dena, Elaine, any thoughts about Rebecca from you guys?
I like that Rebecca really wasn't a horrible person in any way. Like she wanted revenge and all that stuff, but like as soon as Keeley called her on her crap, she immediately felt remorse. Like people who are just horrible people don't immediately feel remorse without somebody like banging it upside their head. Like she immediately felt bad for what she did to Ted. And, she had no reason to even give him any extra respect or anything. I mean, she really still didn't know him at that point. I mean, he was nice, but like she really didn't know him. And when Keely called her on it, she really felt like I messed up, you know. And I like that she actually had those moments where she admitted that she messed up, and she actually had a heart, and she just wasn't like the lady in Major League. You know, she wasn't that lady, you know. She was also very hot. Like, I loved her style. She was classy. I liked her whole vibe.
Oh, like she carried herself like an Amazon, didn't she?
Yeah.
Oh, in more ways than one, dude. In more ways than one.
An Amazon that could sing like an angel.
My
Oh,
God.
when she sang the song from Frozen in the first season and they did karaoke, I was just like, I was there with my jaw like, you know, on the floor.
Elaine, any thoughts on Rebecca from you?
Yes, I also like how she grew past her hatred of her ex-husband. I just blanked on his name, Rupert. And was able to sort of quasi not become friends with him. I'm thinking of that where they went into that meeting to do the big like conglomerate and it ended up in a food fight kind of thing. And they've kind of like had a truce a little bit. But then also there was that scene where knocking at her door is wife number 3 and the mistress he was cheating on wife number 3 with, and she's like, come in, let's take care of this. We are going to take care of him together. It's like she knows what they went through because, you know, it's interesting to see her being the bigger person and going past all of that. I thought that was very nice to see that.
Yeah. Elaine, we'll stick with you. What's another favorite character of yours?
I also like Roy Kent because
Roy effing Kent. Hello.
Well, I have him as a Little People. I have a set of Ted Lasso Little People. I don't remember where I got it, but yeah, I have Roy Kent and everybody on there. I love.
Is it like possible to talk about Roy effing Kent without like F-bombing all the time? I don't know. We'll see.
I can, but I have a kid in the house, so I try not, you know, I don't.
So did he.
Well, that was his niece, and she called him out on it every time, and he had to give her money every time.
That's her college fund right there.
Put money in the swear jar.
Yes, but I loved his relationship with his niece. That, you know, you see the little glimmers of there's this, you know, soft teddy bear in there, but he's not going to show it because he's Roy Kent. And then his relationship with Jamie Tart, how that grows to like big brother, little brother, sort of in a way. I do think that between the two of them, they really messed things up with Keely, but I do think Roy really loved Keely. And so I was kind of a little sad that they didn't end up back together at the end, but you know.
Well, I mean, to be continued, right?
Yes.
I don't know if that story's over.
I hope not.
But maybe.
I hope Roy ends up with a school teacher, truthfully.
She was awesome.
Yes, she was.
Yes.
Yeah, she was pretty cool. Any other thoughts on Roy, Dena?
Oh yeah, he was totes my favorite. His just from the beginning, because literally his first like few scenes, he's like protecting Nate and like trying to get the other guys to leave this kid alone. Like, why are y'all messing with him? And like, even though he's gruff and he sounds very angry and he cusses, he tries to be fair. And I love that about him from the beginning, because I was like, this whole facade is not real. He's really, like you said, a teddy bear. But I also like that he grew like everybody else. He wasn't just stuck on this path that I have to be, you know, a brick wall all the time. And I don't know. He did it for me. He was awesome. Yeah,
and Brett Goldstein, who plays Roy, he was awarded a Primetime Emmy Award for Outstanding Supporting Actor in a Comedy Series. So well deserved there. I don't know what his acceptance speech was like, but I would imagine they had to put their finger on that button a few times, maybe. I don't know. And I think Brett has something to do with the writing of the show as well. Yeah. I think he's more of a creative person behind the scenes as well. And so Mike, any last thoughts on Roy?
Roy is amazing because he went from being the old senior veteran player on the team to then becoming a sportscaster and then finally becoming a coach on, Ted's, staff. And it was awesome. And he had to, become human. He had to show that, show emotion and stuff, because he was a truly angry person. He, didn't let anything in. And, and it was interesting. And I think Kaylee really helped him with that. And, to show it. And then also the relationship with his niece also, I thought was pretty darn awesome. And, he showed his soft side. And I loved when he stopped being, at first, when he stopped being a player, he went to go coach her team. And that was just awesome. And everything. Coach Kent, you can't really say that to children. Oh, shut up, and everything. And it was awesome. But like you said earlier, the relationship he had with Jamie, they went from bitter rivals to friends at the very end. And that was huge for both of them. And it was pretty awesome. Roy made Jamie a better player, and a better person in a lot of ways. And it showed Jamie growing up also at the same time, which was pretty cool. And it was neat to see, what they all went through with it. And Roy was great with that. And Roy, along the way, all the way till he became a Diamond Dog in the final episode. And and that was awesome.
Asked to be a Diamond Dog.
Exactly.
He asked. He wanted to be a Diamond Dog, which I think showed how much he's grown. That he's ready to coach now.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So
and
that was pretty awesome.
Yeah. And I mean, I echo what you guys have said too. I think, obviously if Jason is not part of this show anymore, whatever they call it or however it ends up going, I think Roy is as a character is set up to be like a good replacement as far as if you have a main character like that,
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. Be interesting to see what they do. So Dena, what about you? A main character of yours that you appreciate?
I mean, Roy's my favorite, but if I had to pick another character that I really love, now my brain is blanking on his name.
Which
is
one?
it Higgins?
Oh, okay. Leslie Higgins.
Leslie Higgins.
Yes.
Like I loved him so much, and how cute him and his wife were, and like his whole I don't know, he's just like that cool best friend to have. I thought he was very supportive, and he was ride or die throughout the whole thing. I like that when she called him out about like hiding Rupert's affairs, he tried to do right by her and do things right. He was just a really sweet guy though, and like as a side character, I thought he was very interesting. Because obviously you're focused on a lot of the players and a lot of the, Keeley and all that stuff. But like, I thought he was like a really cool character, and he was just funny at times, and he just has little quippy things to say, and everything. And he just, I don't know, I liked him.
It's interesting because Leslie was a very unique character. He was the straight man in a lot of different ways, but in a lot of ways, he also was the heart of the team and everything. Like in the Christmas episode, he didn't expect anybody to show up, and the whole team came to his house for Christmas dinner. And it was just wonderful. Or in the final season when they went to Amsterdam and he got his wish to play at the jazz bar.
That was awesome.
Oh, it was just awesome. And, and he was always like, yes, I'll shut up. He was like, almost like the lap dog, type thing. And everything. And I always loved it when they called the Diamond Dogs meeting and he had to run all the way down from his office.
Either that or like go through the window or try to come in through the window. Or he was always, trying to make an entrance.
I know exactly. Oh, false alarm. Oh, damn. That was always great.
I think I read somewhere, and this might be completely wrong because it's the internet, but I think Jeremy Swift, who plays Leslie, I think his real life wife played his wife on the show.
Oh,
That would make
okay.
sense.
So
That would really make sense.
I think so. I could be wrong about that, but and I've seen Jeremy in other things, but he shines here. Like everybody else in this show, as you pointed out, Mike, these characters, they come across in the first a couple of episodes as their typical stereotypical, like in the box kind of episodes. But as Ted himself would say, we're going to take that box and we're going to throw it right out. Like, we're just going to like nobody's going to stay, no character on this show is going to stay within that same box. And by the end of it, you're right. They're going to transform into something else. And watching that transformation is really special. Now, I couldn't help but notice that nobody picked Nate. And
Gee, I
and let me tell you, I'm going to pick Nate, not because he's my favorite, but because I cannot forgive this guy. To me, he is not redeemable. And
right.
the one scene that might have helped when he actually quit working for Rupert, they never showed. So
nope.
All the way through, and he was trying to hit on that waitress, that host of that restaurant. I was like, I am not rooting for you because you are a jerk. And I don't think he did enough to be redeemed. I think they kind of dropped the ball with Nate. If we were supposed to feel that, yay, he's happy, we're happy he's back with the team, I wasn't there. And Dena, it looks like you weren't either.
The only thing that made me even have any feelings toward he's not dead anymore was because Coach Beard came and he came and pulled him back, because otherwise he's dead to me.
Right.
Yeah.
Because I hate that whole trope of the oppressing other people. Don't do that. He was so rude to people and so horrible. I'm like, people picked on you and you're a-hole.
Right.
Don't do that.
He was paying it forward in such a bad way.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And somebody really needed to show him that, and I don't really feel like he got shown that.
Mm-mm.
Maybe that'll be a further storyline if and when it comes back. They will explore that more. Maybe.
Yeah. Maybe.
Because I think his only issue with Rupert was that he was going to tell him to cheat on his girlfriend, and that was the reason why he left. He didn't leave. I feel like that was the impetus for him leaving Rupert, is like, oh, you want me to come to this club with you and cheat with these women when I have this great girlfriend, and I finally have a girlfriend. So now, no, I don't want to do that. And then he realized then he was kind of an a-hole, but I don't know.
Yeah. I also really didn't, I expected to see some big scene between the two of them, between Ned and Nate, and we never really got that either. I think Ted just sort of wouldn't accept it or wouldn't play with it or something. But I think he knew a little bit more about what Nate was going through, but yet we never really saw that either. So I thought the show kind of dropped the ball with that character in particular. Mike, any thoughts on Nate?
Oh God, let's sit back and relax on this one. We got a lot to talk about with Nate. It's interesting because he was always living in the shadow of a very demanding father, and he always felt like he couldn't do good enough for whatever he did and everything. And he basically was somebody who didn't have any self-confidence. He didn't have any self-worth because of his parents and everything, always putting him down and everything. And it was very interesting that Ted was the first one to actually see something in him and actually go out there and, give him a shot at something. And he aced it. He succeeded at it. He, started becoming more and more confident in himself. And he started treating the people around him like his father was treating him. And it was real interesting to see. And he was, growing and growing. And then Ted started having his breakdowns and everything. And he wasn't there for Nate to hold Nate up. And Nate lashed out at Ted because of that.
I also think that, real quick, I also think that he, like you said, Nate appreciated that Ned saw something special in him.
Mm-hmm.
But that's the way Ted treats everybody.
Oh, very much
Ted's,
so.
And I think Nate finally realized, or eventually realized, oh, he's not reaching out to me because I'm special. He does that to everybody. I hate him now. Like, it took away some of his specialness because he was really jealous when Roy came and joined the coaching staff.
Oh, very much so. He was jealous about that. But
he was jealous about the other Kit boy.
Oh, he was jealous.
Kit man, sorry.
He made the other Kit boy, man, whatever, life a living hell,
Horrible.
Exactly. Or how much he hated himself, because, when Keeley took him shopping for new clothes and everything, and he looked good in the suits and everything. And he then tried to kiss Kaylee because of it, because he read it wrong, because he's an idiot. And, she was just being nice to him. And, and it was literally, he was spitting at himself in the mirror and everything, because he couldn't stand, what kind of person he was.
Mm-hmm.
You're not worth this. You're not, because he kept on hearing his father, even when he tried taking his parents out for dinner that one time, and his father had to complain or something about it, and it wasn't good enough for him. And it literally, and then he made the sin of, ratting out Ted, saying it to the media and everything. And it was really big of Trent to, actually come to Ted. It was a sign of respect and showed how much their relationship had grown and everything. That, that it was Nate who did it. And then when when Nate, finally left the team, ripped up the sign and everything, which was funny as hell when they did the next season and showed that he had to keep on hiding under the desk because of it and everything, to not be found and everything. And then he had to climb out the window, and he fell through the window and everything. It was awesome. It was totally awesome. And then he went to coach the other team. And, when you saw him in the final scene, looking his, and if you notice, his hair kept on turning gray the more he went to the dark side, as we were calling it. And it was real interesting. I think he got off too light, though. I think, it's all about forgiveness in this show. It's all about that. But I also think that he got off way, way too light and too easy, and forgiven for everything. Because you saw how pissed the team was when they saw that Coach Beard showed them the video of him ripping the sign and everything. And they played like idiots.
As Ted showed, like, that didn't help anybody. It
It
doesn't help anybody to actually want revenge and get all upset about it and all that kind of stuff. I mean, there's a lot of great lessons that Ted has here that he imparts on all these people and on everybody he meets, really.
Oh, very much so. Being touched, having a little bit of Ted Lasso in your life means your life is going to be that much better for it. And that was the meaning of the show and everything.
Absolutely.
So
oh man, we're just so out of time. But we have to talk about.
Let's go another 10 minutes.
We have to talk about. All right, so if we're gonna get another 10 minutes, then I'm gonna go around the horn really fast. I'm gonna start with you, Elaine. What's somebody else or something else about the show that you really loved?
I loved what Trent Krim became. I didn't hate him. I didn't hate him so much when he was first on, but because he had like the gorgeous hair and it was like Trent Krim from The Independent. It was kind of like, okay, but you could see that he wasn't, like there was something in there, like he was wanting to do something more than just be a snarky reporter. And then when he asked if he could come write the book, that was a funny scene also when, Ted was like,
They're all
well,
like,
I don't know. And they're all like, no, no, no. And then he's like, sure, why not? Come write a book. But then how he learned so much about the team and learned about the Ted way, and then helping Colin be okay with coming out to the team, and the team being, that it was a whole, I really ended up loving Trent Krim.
yeah, I got a feeling that if they do spin off without Ted, this show will be called The Richmond Way.
Yes.
Oh yeah, very much so. I think that's why they changed the title of the book too, to set it.
That's exactly what I was thinking. Because I'm like, Ted would not want a show about him named after him. Dena, real quick, what's something else about the show you like? Either a character, scene, whatever.
I love Sam also, and he was good. He's kind of run of the mill, little sweet, young player, go through his growing pains. But one of the things I really loved about the show is the ups and downs of the wins and losses, and the fact that they didn't overdo the wins and then they didn't overdo the losses to make it so extra dramatic. It was just enough to make me, I'm not a football fan, get into it. I'm yelling, I'm Jamie, like I'm barbecue sauce. I'm going crazy watching the games. When they lose, I feel like May in the pub, like freaking out. So I love the way they did that, because I hate like the extreme loss and I hate the extreme wins that are just both unrealistic. And I like the way they kind of did that.
Yeah, absolutely. Mike, what about you? What's somebody else or something else about the show that you really liked?
Oh, I just love how you got into the lives of all the different players too. Even mostly like Sam was mostly, and and how he grew, and then his disagreement to with the big rich guy from his home country and everything. But then I also loved how he was the one who took the stand against the sponsor for the team, and the whole team stuck with him about it and everything. And that was awesome. And I loved how he ended up opening the restaurant. He even had an affair with the boss, and and I thought it was cute as heck, because Sam is such a nice guy and everything. And it's pretty awesome, and everything from the beginning of the second episode, where you had the one character kill the dog in the three throw, that was just like awful. It was awful. And it was great. And you had the big soccer star come in this season, Zorba, and it was awesome. It was like, where the hell are they going with this and everything?
Nowhere. They went nowhere.
They went nowhere. But but truthfully, I think it did help, because I think it made Jamie a better player, because it
made Jamie want to be a better player,
and he became
willing to work with Roy to be a better player.
Exactly. But he also became a team member in this. He became, he was willing not to take the spotlight for himself, and that's what the whole thing was with that.
Yeah,
I thought that was awesome. And so there was just, and I just thought it was great. All the side characters were awesome. Beard was amazing. I love Beard. I love Beard's night out was such a great episode and everything. And, Beard's relationship with his girlfriend, now wife, and everything. And so it's just awesome, and
the Beard's night out, I tell you, was an episode that I was like, when did this show become like more than a half an hour? Like, I was like, because it usually, like the first season, I think they're almost all half an hour, 30, 35 minutes. And then the second season, they go 34, 37, 39, 40. And then by the end, it's 50. Like an hour. Like, it's like, and I'm like, so to me, that the Beard episode was a real indicator, like, oh yeah, these are not half-hour episodes anymore. And I kind of wish they were, because I think some of them could have been a little tighter, because that one seemed to go on forever to me. And I liked it, but it was just like, wow, this is going on a long time.
Beard's Night Out was a filler episode that they came up with later.
It was pretty obvious.
Yeah, because it announced they were originally only supposed to do like 8 episodes or 9 episodes, and they people at Apple had a hit on their hands. So they said, you got a couple more episodes. So they threw it in. They also threw in the Christmas special.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I think maybe like the Beard Night Out, because of what they did with it, allowed them to have as much fun as they did in the Amsterdam episode, because it was kind of like Beard Night Out for the entire team.
Yes.
Yeah,
you know,
true.
with and so
I loved how the whole
Amsterdam
team
episode
decide what to do in Amsterdam.
Yeah.
For me, I think it was really, really fun to see Anthony Head as Rupert.
Yeah.
I thought he was. I mean, my previous experience with Anthony, of course, is as another Rupert on Buffy, and to see him go from that character to this character, and I know he's played a lot of other characters in between. I've seen him in other things. I know he's more than capable. But when I'm watching Rupert in this show, I don't think about Giles one bit. Like he is completely sells me on this, Rupert Murdoch wannabe. And he's just having a blast playing him, and he's so sleazy and slimy that you can. I mean, the slime is just oozing off your TV screen, but he's really hamming it up, but not to the point where he's overselling it. I just think he just did a tremendous job. And if you're gonna hate somebody, if there's gonna be a bad guy in this show, he's just perfect for it.
He was the bad guy. And they went as far to make him the bad guy in this season, especially the whole.
There's no redemption for this guy.
No, there wasn't. But his office, if you look at the window,
I know
the Death Star.
Yeah, exactly. It's like the Emperor Palpatine.
It's awesome. Literally,
yeah,
to the T.
It really is,
and they did that purposely. And
absolutely.
And it was just awesome. And to as far as him in the long black cloak and in the final episode of the game and everything.
Yeah. Oh man. The way Anthony just like flung that coat around, I was just like, damn, he is enjoying this.
Yeah.
It was awesome. So I really appreciated his performance, and I couldn't end this segment without saying something about that. Now, that we're almost over, I'm going to point to you first, Elaine.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want more? Do you want more without Ted? Do you want more, and how do you want it?
I want more, but I'm afraid that it won't be as good. But they planted so many little seeds in the finale, like the women's football club that he went to Rebecca about that, or just to see what Beard and Roy and whoever else can finish doing with Richmond. Can they keep going further? Can they, so I would like to see more, but it needs to still be as good as Ted Lasso.
Right. Dena, what about you? What do you want to see it continue, and if so, how?
I actually agree with Elaine a lot, because honestly, I don't want any more Ted Lasso as a full-time show, because I feel like once you've gotten to that point where he's like, I'm going home because this thing is more important to me than anything, I feel like if he comes back, like that's, that just like spits on all the like stand-up guy, attitude that he's had and wanting to be with his son and wanting to make things right with whatever situation's happening with his wife. I feel like that throws it all out the window. But I definitely would love to see Coach Beard and Roy on their own without Ted. Hilarious.
Mike, what about you?
I'm thinking if they do the Richmond way, it can be the new women's soccer team or football team, excuse me. And I think that would be great. And it would be interesting having Nate as the coach of the women's team, because I think that could be something very, very interesting to do. And
I don't know if I'd want to watch a show that starred Nate.
No, it wouldn't start Nate. It would have all of them involved. It would have Rebecca. It would have, everybody there. But I don't.
Now Roy teaching a lot, like be coaching a lot of women. That could be fun.
I don't think that would happen, because he's going to be too busy, doing the men's team and everything. But you never know. It could be he decides to do it, and that could be fun. It could definitely be fun. And the characters are so rich. And if the right, it wasn't just Jason Sudeikis writing, he had a huge team in there, including some of the folks like Beard and Roy and other people that were writing for this. And
Yeah.
it was, so if you have a lot of them still involved with it, I think it can pick up right where it left off. It doesn't need to have Ted Lasso per se, because there were parts of the season where Ted only appeared like once or twice an episode, even.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I definitely think it could be something. So I'd be very curious to see where it was. Do I want more? Hell yes. I will be there if they keep the quality up. That's my, little, thing with it.
Yeah, I don't think anybody will say they want more if the quality is lower.
No.
I don't think that's something that any of us want. But sure. I mean, yeah. I mean, if they announce a new series,
because sorry to interrupt, but you've gotten spin-offs of other series that are sometimes even better than the originals.
It's true.
Came off of.
Yeah, so, some people like my example before. Some people think Major Crimes was a better show than The Closer.
Well, look at Cheers and Frasier. Stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Or
that's a big fight,
and,
though. We don't have time to get into that fight. Which show is better? But in any case, yeah, I mean, I agree. If the show continues in any form, I'm there. I'm going to check it out. And if the quality's not there, of course, I'll be dropping that too. But as long as the same creator people are involved, I have confidence that it'll be worth watching. I think the only reason, Dena, to your point, the only reason I'd want to see Ted is if it was going to be some other thing that he was going to try to do. Like it was not going to be a show about Richmond. It was going to be a show about Ted Lasso taking on another challenge. Like I would be up for that. Like a completely new environment, completely new sport, maybe like, teaches, like he coaches basketball or something else, something wild. But of course it'd have to be in the States. It'd have to be near his son for that to make any sense. Because I find it hard to believe that. And Mike, to your point, like you said that he went over there and took this job because he was having trouble with his wife. He took this job because he was going to get paid a lot of damn money. Like, I mean, he was coaching what, like some division, college ball before this, like football. Right. Like he got a huge bump in pay to do this because Rebecca did not care how much she had to spend to ruin Rupert's team. So I'm sure that that had something to do with it too. I'm not saying it's the only reason, but I think that's the main reason he and Beard went over there. In any case, let's hope there's more. And if there's more, we will cover it on this show. So I think that's it for now, but thank you so much for joining us to talk about this. We will be right back as we get creative.
Welcome back. Now it's time for the Creative Outlet segment, and we have comic creator Justin Gray with us. Welcome back, sir.
Thank you for having me. Hello, everyone.
It's good to have you. You have a brand new Kickstarter going. It's been going for about, 2 weeks now or so?
Yeah, I think there's 3 days left. As of right now, there's 3 days left.
Right. So basically, folks, when this goes live, you pretty much have 24 hours to get it done. So
That's plenty of time.
Exactly.
That last push.
That's it.
That last bump.
No, it's great. It's always fun to get in on the end of it too. It's always fun, like when you do a Kickstarter, you see how it ramps up and then it kind of flattens out a little bit. Sometimes you get variations of it, and then at the end there's this sort of frenzied rush of things, and every one of them is different. So it's kind of it's interesting to just continuously see how these things develop and play out and try and figure out, what works, what doesn't work, how best to get those things out there. And obviously this helps. So I appreciate it very much, you guys.
Oh, absolutely. Dude, you are always welcome on the show anytime. If you just want to talk about the paint drying on the wall, you're always welcome. You know that.
All right. I got some stories, so we should definitely set up.
Tell us about Billy the Kit.
This Billy the Kit is, if you don't know, It is a story about an anthropomorphic gunslinging rabbit in a different version of the Wild West, where he is the son of a preacher man, and he's weak and sickly. And one day, when his whole family gathers together, they've all emigrated from another part of the country, and they're settling in the West. And they've all gathered together. Rabbits have huge families, and Billy's sick and he can't go out. And the father's like, "Don't worry, next time you can go out." And what happens is a vengeful tornado god who doesn't like all of these Christian rabbits moving into his land wipes out Billy's entire family, not knowing that Billy is asleep underground in the warren. And he comes out and he realizes his entire family's gone. And so he has to bury all of them. And classical Western fashion, very spaghetti Western, very Morricone or Corbucci. And then he's lost. He's just a kid. He doesn't know what to do. And he runs into a goat named Luther, who is pretty much a kung fu master, badass that's been in the war that had taken place previously, because there's been light and dark wars throughout the Wild West. And this is a continuation of the first series, which was 5 issues, where we see the origin of Billy, we see what kind of character he is, we see what he's made of. And now in this second chunk of story, it's going to be a situation where I wanted to do stuff like crazy stuff. I wanted to do like physical reading stuff with the comics. So Barry McLean, the artist, and I were working on the idea of constantly having to move the book around as we're doing the sort of Indiana Jones old school adventure storyline of him. He discovers a map, and the map leads him to a treasure. And so I wanted to represent that visually in a way that we hadn't seen very often in comics. So I wanted it to be a very personal, visceral, physical reading experience, because I think a lot of that gets lost. There's a lot of scrolling in the world now. There's a lot of that tactile sense of flipping through things. So I thought, why not try and incorporate some of that in the actual comic reading experience and see if it works. So I hope it does. The art's brilliant. It looks amazing. Barry nailed all the things we were going for in terms of the old school. I don't remember who did it first. Maybe it was Dennis Cowan or whatever, where you'd see the character sort of ghosted into solid form as they go across the page. There's a lot of that in there. There's a lot of big action sequences, a lot of big scenes. And there's a lot of story in there, because I go back to, if you haven't read the first 5 issues, that's available in the Kickstarter. So you can go get all 5, and then this is issue 6. And you could see the progression of how the character developed, where the story is going. And it's really a heartfelt kind of story where I took some of the elements of Spider-Man and the hero that's constantly getting pushed down. And every time the hero tries to do the right thing, there's always a price to pay for it. I think that's a brilliant storytelling archetype in any hero's journey. And I really wanted that to be the kind of feeling that you got when you read Billy the Kid.
That is awesome.
Awesome. Well, I know that from personal experience, it certainly worked in the first season, so I'm looking forward to this one. Now, is the whole season covered in this Kickstarter, or?
No, this is just the first issue.
Okay.
So what happened was Barry and I had been doing. We did like a teaser trailer in issue 1 as a combination as like a 52-page comic. Just kind of like, it was one of those things where I had this idea. And I was like, this is a crazy idea. I don't know what's going to happen, but I have to tell this story just for my own personal sort of creative process. And I was like, nobody's going to read this. It's a talking rabbit comic, talking animals in the Wild West. Because I had done Jonah Hex with Jimmy Palmiotti and so many talented artists, and I didn't want to retread that. I wanted to do something different. I didn't want to do Justin Gray's version of Jonah Hex. Because a lot of people, when they move on from a popular like corporate character, they sort of make kind of their own version of it. So I thought this is so offbeat from that. Mm-hmm. And so this is an extension of a mythology. I was very obsessed with making there be a full-blown mythology around just this character, not just being a rabbit, not just being a gunslinger, not just having sort of a prototypical origin story where, in the Westerns, someone suffers and they have to rise up, pick them up by their bootstraps. There's a very quintessential sort of American story to that as well. But I wanted to do animals because we were going through a period of time where everything was being compartmentalized based on appearance or gender or all these other things. And I was like, we just let these characters could be characters like Animal Farm or We Three that Grant Morrison did, or Brian K. Vaughan did the Baghdad book.
Right, Pride of Baghdad, yeah.
I really wanted there to just be a sense of telling a story that didn't have to have any kind of social, political aspect to it. And that's what drew me to the idea of doing it with animals.
Awesome.
That is fantastic. That is really, really fantastic. And I love the first one, so it was great.
Thank you very much.
So
you never know. And Blue Juice came in and they said, we love this. And then they haven't done a Kickstarter, so they wanted to do Billy the Kid as the Kickstarter because it already had been on Kickstarter twice.
Right.
And I think that was a good experience so far because I've been, obviously I'm in contact with them all the time, and Tom and Jerry, and they're great guys. I love the company. I like everyone that works there, and it's been interesting to sort of be the creator and writer, co-creator and writer, and just sort of step back and not be so, my hands so deeply involved in it. It's been fun, but it's weird, and it's been all these different things, and they're doing a great job. I think they're killing it, and I'm very happy to have the opportunity for this book to be in the world because it's so unconventional. It's just something I was like, I'm really just having fun, and Barry was having fun, and we were kind of just evolving the book from our own two perspectives. So, I appreciate everyone that backs it, everyone that supports it, and because this is the kind of book I couldn't walk into, a publisher and be like, oh, you should buy this because it's talking animals. But the thing is, when people read it, they're like, oh, I get it. And it's fun. And there's a lot of human quality to it. There's a lot of silly adventure. And I really want that experience of like enjoying a comic and not getting talked to by the comic or having to learn a lesson from the comic or trying to fit into some kind of, category of why I'm reading this and just to have fun. I mean, that's why I read comics and that's why I make comics.
Absolutely.
That's awesome. That is really, really awesome. So what is the Kickstarter, my friend? How can we find you?
You could go to Kickstarter and search Billy the Kid. It'll probably be the first one. There'll be two other ones there, but there'll be the live one. And there's a link on my Instagram, which is not really, I don't do any personal social media, so I just do Bleeding Cult. It's at Bleeding Cult for Instagram. And then my bio has the link to it. Blue Juice Comics has an Instagram. The link is in there. And like I said, you could search it up. There's no other Billy the Kid comic running on Kickstarter. There's no other anthropomorphic rabbit gunslinger comic right now, as far as I know.
That's awesome.
That's how it works. So you can just look it up, or you can, look at one of these accounts, follow us. Definitely follow Blue Juice. You can follow me if you want. I post a lot of weird nonsense. That's we've got 3 days left, so it's going to be interesting. I hope that everyone listening to this wants to jump on board and just at least try it out. I think you can just try out. There's 6 issues there. It's a lot of material, and it's very energetic. The artwork is great. The coloring by Slimette is great. Benny Lava does the lettering and all the design work on it, and Blue Juice does some design work. And it's, I think it's an enjoyable comic. Like, you just kind of want to have fun and forget about, what your normal life is like. I think most people will enjoy it.
Nice.
Nice. Definitely thank you for, coming on and promoting it. We do appreciate you, my friend.
Oh, I appreciate you having me on here. We definitely got to do some other stuff for sure.
Most definitely.
Yeah, I know you got some other stuff in the pipeline, right? More Issues of Hope and everything, right?
Yeah, I'm getting ready to launch Hope as a Kickstarter. I'm waiting for Billy to end. I've been doing a lot of prose writing and working on these kinds of...
it's all blurred because you're...
And there's a reason for that, too. It actually worked out.
It's blurred.
Blurred.
Anyway, yeah, so I've been doing... I had a really rough 2022 comics year where I really kind of pounded my head against the wall and I really got very jaded very quickly. It was another growth period, like after DC Comics kind of forgot that I existed. And I was sticking my foot back into the pool of work for hire comics, and it just went horribly wrong. And I was like, why am I doing this? I would much rather write for people who want to read my stuff than go chase the carrot of the paycheck and the like. I mean, in these kinds of gigs where you have no proprietary, no back end, you just literally come in, you get a check, and you go away. I don't really want to do that anymore. And at this point, I really would rather entertain people who want to be entertained than chase after all these other things. So then I started going back to prose. I have all these things, and I'm working on something right now that's nuts. And if we have time at another point to talk about that, I think it'll be quite entertaining, actually.
As Mike said, you are welcome back anytime.
Anytime.
Yeah, let's definitely schedule something and set that up for sure.
Sure.
Awesome.
That'd be great. Well, let's take a quick break. And Justin, thank you. And also thanks to the folks at Ink Marketing for setting all this up for us, as always.
Right, shout out to Kevin.
Yep.
Definitely.
And we will be back in a second to close up the show. Okay, YouTube folks, this is where we jump in usually with a little bit of bonus and everything. It's interesting. One of the characters we didn't touch on at all, actually, she barely came up, was Kaylee in the season of Ted Lasso. And she's another one who was a spokesmodel, and she was Jamie Tartt's girlfriend, at the beginning of the show. And it was, she became a marketing, person. She became the main marketing for the team. And it was interesting. And I liked that. Did you like them focusing, a lot of storylines on Kaylee in multiple seasons?
I love Keeley, but if you look at it, she's like responsible in part for a lot of other people's growth. Rebecca,
very much
Jamie,
so.
Roy, and then her own growth from being the spokesmodel to realizing she could be a savvy businesswoman and run a business and know how to fire her spokesmodel friend who's really screwing things up. Really be able to just and then when Roy and Jamie show up on her doorstep because they've been fighting each other over her hand, she's like, "What? I don't get a choice. Both of you can go. Bye." That she's grown enough where she can tell that to them, like, "No, I'll be by myself for a little while." So yeah, I love Keeley.
That is awesome. Yeah, she was a great character. What about you, Dena?
One of the things that I really loved about what they did with her character is when the situation happened with Jack and like the video being put online and all the stuff. And I love Keeley when she's like, I've been online naked before. The difference is it was with my permission. And I love that she knew that about like she had the wherewithal to know that was because a lot of women don't like if I give my permission, it's something that I choose. I'm fine with doing this, but somebody can't just take this and do it. And I'm glad that she was so smart in so many ways. Like she seemed kind of silly and sometimes, but like she was so smart in so many ways. And I love that about her because she didn't back down with Jack because Jack was not for her. I don't even know why they did that relationship, but anyway, yeah, awesome. I really love that about her, that she just was like, I own what I did and I did this and I'm not ashamed. And this is for my man, not for anybody else. And it's nobody's business. And I really loved her for that.
No, I agree completely with that. What about you, Mikey?
What I like about this show, and I said earlier on that there's a lot of tropes that this show follows, and it follows really well. But it does subvert a lot of other tropes that we see way too often. And one of the things I really appreciated about this series is that, it's very common, very expected that if you have women in a show, they're going to be bitchy to each other, they're going to be fighting all each other, they're not going to get along, and it's going to be like a cat fight in every episode, or at least like dynasty kind of levels, right? This show it has women helping women, and certainly a lot of them do have disagreements, but they're they're constantly trying to lift each other up. And it is so refreshing to see that here, that you're kind of taken aback. You're like, whoa, this is, weird, but it's in a good way. And it's the whole show is like that. The whole show has positive messages about life, about everything. And in every single, character that it touches, that it's really rare to see a show that's so good-natured for adults. Usually good-natured shows are family viewing shows, and usually adult shows have, HBO levels of TNA and blood and guts and all of that, right? Mm-hmm. And intense violence and intense scenes. If shows like, there's very rarely a show that is a feel-good show that is meant for adults. And that's exactly what Ted Lasso does, and better than almost anybody.
I think the closest to any TNA was with Coach Beard. So,
Yeah, no.
I always did love wherever they traveled to and they turned on the TV, it was Kaylee on the TV, talking about the town they were in and everything.
Yeah. Well, I think one of the reasons why it did so well with it, all the good positivity in it, was when it came out, we were still in the middle or trying to get out of a pandemic. Mm-hmm. And so everybody was just all blah. I hate everything in the world. And then Ted Lasso comes in and it's like, oh, maybe there's some hope and happiness somewhere out there. We can get through this. We just need to watch Ted Lasso and everything will be right in the world. Somehow.
Yeah, I have seen some folks say that this is a show we needed right when we needed it.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. It's going to be very interesting to see. And, one of the other main characters you had was the town itself and the townspeople. You had Richmond, and it was awesome. May and, the crew at the bar and everything, they were all awesome and everything. I love the old guy who, anytime he saw Ted, hey, wanker, no matter if they were winning, losing, he would put Ted down and everything. Don't screw this one up, and everything. It was just awesome and everything. And that's what made the show for me. It just wasn't Ted. It was everybody and everything. Even the therapist and everything.
The therapist, she was amazing. I know you guys love Doctor Who, and every time I looked at May, I'm like, this Levine.
It's a Levine. Oh wait, is she gonna fart? I don't know.
Yeah, that was. We had just watched that 2-parter not too long ago, and she was right fresh on my mind, and I'm like, oh man, it's gonna like. I had no problem thinking of Anthony Head as somebody else, but man, it took me a while to get her out of my head as a Levine. I was like, ugh. Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a lot of Doctor Who alumni in this, and it's just fun when they show up.
There was tons of Doctor Who in this, and I was almost expecting a couple times. All right, are we going to see a TARDIS somewhere in the background or something? It was fun. It really, really was fun, and it was interesting. One of the other things I always laughed at, if you looked at Richmond's stadium, it wasn't big at all compared to like Man United or any of the other, even like Rupert's new stadium and everything. It looks like one of those huge NFL stadiums.
Chelsea, is that where you? Yeah,
Nelson,
Chelsea, right?
Yep. But it was interesting because you had all these huge stadiums, and then you had Richmond, which was like, it looked like it had 2 bleachers or something, two sections to it and everything, and it was just like, what, So I
definitely wanted to press upon the fact that they were a small town team.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Exactly. And that was what was great about it. And you know what? It was just all over wonderful. And, I won't lie and say that somebody in my household was, had a tear or two, in the final episode,
I tell you what, if you're not emotional during this show, I don't know what you're doing watching it. Because you tend to care about these characters so much that there's a lot of scenes that are quite moving, both on a horrible level, like, oh my God, I can't believe that's happening to them, and on a huge joyous level because you're so happy for them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, here's another question I'm going to throw out at you guys. I know, in the final scene when Ted was on the airplane and he fell asleep, and then you saw everyone's future. Some people are theorizing that was not what happens. That's just Ted's dream of that, his good wishes for everybody and everything.
I think they're just trying to cover themselves if they make more.
Mm-hmm.
And also they're trying to, that's for people who are saying that the CG in Beard's wedding scene was so bad that's why
it was horrible, dude. It was horrible.
That's why it was so bad, because it was just a dream. I think so. I don't know.
People were bitching and moaning and saying, if Ted's supposed to be Beard's best friend, why wasn't Ted back at the wedding and everything? It's like, because Ted's getting his life together back. Because it probably happened fairly quickly after, Ted left.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, they kept saying like 1 month later, 3 months later, 5. I don't know what that was, but yeah, I think that was some months later.
Mm-hmm. Well, it looked like it, because usually, if they're pagan, they probably did it on one of the solstices and everything, especially being at Stonehenge. And
Jane always had weird requirements of Beard, so maybe it was a
Jane
thing.
Yes.
She thought they were lovers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so maybe she was like, no, he's not allowed to come. So I don't know.
I don't want your ex there, mister.
She was pretty possessive of him, that's for sure.
Yeah.
In the final episode, I'm going to go clean the bedrooms. And they both were like, no, don't go up there. It's like, what was up there? So it's interesting. So I liked what happened with everyone. And if it is the end, I'm very happy to see how everybody ended and everything.
Yeah, me too. They did an okay ending.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So it was awesome. So definitely, folks at home, what did you guys think? YouTube people, we definitely would love to hear from you guys. Did you like it? Did you not? Did you like how the series ended? There's so much speculation. And do you want to see it come back? We definitely would love to hear from you guys. You know where to leave feedback underneath at the bottom, or just write us feedback at ourstation1.com. It's the best way to get in touch with us. We definitely would love to hear from everybody with their speculations and everything. I think we might have to revisit Ted Lasso sometime later on also. Let it all settle in a little bit, and then maybe come back to this again, maybe in a year or so. I think that might be kind of cool, because we might have an idea if there's going to be a continuation by that point too.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that might be pretty cool to do. All right, let's close up the show. So that's going to wrap up another episode of the Earth Station One podcast. I want to thank everyone for being here tonight. Dena, thank you so much for being here. You were great. It was awesome.
Thank you for letting me join you guys.
Oh, not a problem. Anything you want to promote or shout out about?
Yeah, you can find my husband and I drinking and getting drunk and talking about geek stuff on my YouTube channel, Drunk and Blerdy. That's Drunk and Blerdy.
I love it. I've actually watched a couple of them and they're fantastic. Definitely if you get a chance, check it out. She is a ton of fun. Husband's not a slouch either, so it's pretty cool too. And Elaine, thanks for hanging out with us this past weekend. It was awesome.
Yes, it was.
Anything you want to promote or shout out about?
Yes, I am one of 3 co-hosts on another podcast called Monkeeing Around, a podcast about the monkeys.
Really?
Oh, yes, really.
And I thought it was a Planet of the Apes podcast. That is awesome. You guys have been doing some killer stuff. You've been getting some great interviews on that show.
I've been working really hard at trying to get people on our show. Yeah.
That is awesome. And it's a proud member of the ESO Network also. So it's pretty cool.
Yes.
Awesome. So that is very cool. And you know what? We're very happy with everything. And it was a nice little shock to, see you guys at the con and everything. It's like, wow, in person, not on screen.
Yes.
It was awesome to do. So thank you as always. And Mr. Mike, we've made it through another one, my friend.
We did. And as always, it's my pleasure.
So now are you going to go get some sleep after, binge watching Ted Lasso all weekend?
Maybe. I definitely need some of that for sure.
Well, anything you want to shout out about, sir?
Yeah, a couple of weeks ago, I mentioned that my cousin Ryan Suffren had produced a film that debuted and won Best Short Film at the Mountain Film Festival in Telluride. But I neglected to mention that two other of his films also premiered at Telluride as well. He is an executive producer on a movie called Rather, which is a feature documentary on legendary journalist Dan Rather. And he also, it was the world premiere of another a documentary that he executive produced was called The Space Race, which is a documentary that weaves together little known stories of Black astronauts seeking to break the bonds of social injustice to reach the stars. It had its world premiere at Tribeca Film Festival, and it's a really cool concept, and I'm looking forward to seeing both of those.
Of course, I can't wait to see some of those too. Everything he does, I have interest in. I did get to see his New Orleans Jazz Fest.
Nice,
and it was awesome. He did a fantastic job. So I'm looking forward to seeing his new stuff.
That's the one where he won a Grammy.
Of course. Even with Jimmy Buffett in it, it won a Grammy. That's pretty awesome.
Well, no accounting for taste there.
Oh well. My shout out real quick. You've heard me mention a couple times during this podcast tonight that, Elaine and I were together over the weekend. We were at Con Castor in Huntsville, Tennessee, which is a Doctor Who con that had been on hiatus a little bit, mostly for COVID and also for personal reasons with the founders and such. And so they actually came back, and it was a wonderful 2-day celebration of all things Doctor Who. And sadly enough, they announced it. This might be the end, kind of like Ted Lasso, kind of, surprising that way. But there's rumor going around that actually it might not be going away as quickly as some people were hoping or thinking. So it's pretty awesome that we get more. We might be getting some more concave, but that's a TBA. But we all had a great weekend. The main guest, of course, was John Barrowman, and John was amazing. He was so personable to everyone who met him, and he hung out with some of the guests and, the people going to the con. We saw him go by our table at least 5 or 6 times, and he, raised his eyebrows a couple times when he, went by us. So it was perfect, and everything. And so it was a cool time for everybody. And it was fun hanging out with Mary. It was fun hanging out with her sister Barbara, Judy, of course, and of course Elaine and Matt. And sadly, Mr. Mike, you were missed. You came up quite a bit. And it was also nice to hang out see Kirby and Matthew, of course, who helps put it on, works with Bonnie and everything. And it was just great. And we met a lot of great people there. And so, folks, if it comes back, Huntsville, Alabama is the one great part of Alabama that I actually, like. So it's pretty cool. And it's just a great time. And hopefully Concave will be there, and you could see my pictures up on my Facebook, and it's open to everybody. So you don't have to be friends with me to see it or anything like that. And there were some amazing costumes. They went all out this year, and it was a ton of fun. So definitely check it out. And, of course, it's always great to talk to you guys. It's great to talk to the people who help listen. We had people come up, oh, ESO, we love you guys. I love your podcast. And a couple of people rattled off a couple of the topics that we did recently. And it was just like, you listen, oh my God, so it's pretty awesome when that happens. So it's always great when you guys do. And, that's how we find out who's listening, because you can write us, or we can beg you to write us, or you could give us a thumbs up or leave a review and everything. But we really find out when you come up to us at a con or something and say you really appreciate and that you do listen. And that's the awesome thing with doing the show. It's pretty darn amazing, and it makes it worth it like that. So it's pretty cool. And as we like to say always, you are the reason we're talking to you guys right now. We wouldn't be doing this, if nobody was listening. People are listening. People obviously are listening, and it's awesome to be able to do this. And, feedback at our Station One is always the best way to get in touch with us. If you have any comments, good, bad, mediocre, whatever, just write us. We always love hearing from you guys. As always, we also have new stuff coming to our Tee-Public store. You can find those Tee-Public t-shirts up on our, ESO website or the Earth Station One website. And it's a great way to wear some ESO swag. And we actually saw 2 people wearing ESO t-shirts over the weekend. So kudos to you, folks. So it was pretty awesome. So also, of course, as we like to say, you could also join in, and with all the fun with the ESO Patreon, you could help support us, for as little as $1 a month, folks. It's not that much. All you have to do is go to patreon.com/ESO Network. Pretty cool stuff. Let's thank a couple of our patrons right now. That's right, folks. We went over it last time. Let's also thank Kevin Cafferty, Jen Adams, Eric Paul Johnson, Alan O.W. Barnes, Lydia. Okay, I'm going to kill this last name. Sorry. She might not be a patron after this one. Kenedactyl, Dave Slaughter, Chris Jones, Jill Sanders, Wildcard, Rob McIntyre, and of course, Jacob Holler. Thank you guys so much for supporting us. It's always great to do that when you guys can do that for us. Also, of course, if you want to follow us, you can find our podcast anywhere fine podcasts are found. And of course, we have our YouTube channel. As we always like to say, if you like us and you made it this far into the video, please give us a thumbs up. Let us know you enjoyed this episode, that you love Ted Lasso. If you love Ted Lasso, give us a thumbs up. We would appreciate it. And also always like and subscribe. And also hit the little star at the top. That way when we have new episodes coming out twice a week for you. On behalf of myself, Mike Faber, Mr. Michael Gordon, Elaine Sweatman, and Dena Woods, thank you so much for listening. And as always, believe. That's right, folks. We got to believe. See you soon. Peace. And we are done.
You're listening to the ESO Network, your station for all things geek.